Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about the center of the map of Eclipse Town. So basically, we're going to talk about all the hiding spots in the center of the map, right? Not including the buildings, right? We'll go over the central buildings in another video. So basically, going over the center of the map. So obviously, this is where the hunter spawn is, and right, if we head this way, we approach the center of the map. Let's start with this melon stack. So basically, as you approach from hunter spawn, this melon stack is on the right side right here. Basically, this melon stack is symmetrical, right? With the exception of the melon on the left right here. So basically, that exception would be the melon on the left. Some common spots you might see is if you see like two melons on top of each other like this, it's fake. Right? If you see two melons on top of each other like this, it's fake. Right? Sometimes you see it like squared off. I like that word, squared off, like right there, or squared off right here. This would be fake as well. That's typically what you would see though, right? And sometimes it'll be squared off right here like that. I like that, it's good. If you have two in a row like this, that would be fake. Also, you'll sometimes see like melons hiding behind it, even though they don't become solid, right? So stuff like that as well. That's basically it for the melon stack. Now, the way that we're going to go over all these different hiding spots is we're basically going to head in a clockwise manner. So basically, just like that, right? Just like that. So we'll start with the hiding spots underneath this area. So I guess starting with the hay bales, right? Starting with the hay bales, the two most common spots in this hay bale stack is to see a hay bale in this slot right here, right? Or a hay bale in this hole right here. So basically, you should be familiar with those spots. Some other spots, like basically notice that there's two hay bales on top, so if you see three hay bales on top like this, then that would be fake. So sometimes you'll see that. And like sometimes you even see a hay bale behind the stack like this, so that would be fake as well. Right? And so that's basically it for the hay bale stack. Also notice that there's a little flower pot here, right? You can easily see flower pots in these spots as well, right? It happens a few times, right? Right, going to the melon stack, right? Melon stack is also important to know about, right? If you see a melon in this slot, it would be fake. Melon in either one of these two spaces, like right here or right here, right? That would be fake. Because really, you should have the letter W here, or if that letter W is affected, that's how you know you have a fake melon. Some other spots, if you see like a melon right here, this would be fake, right? So basically, notice how it sort of forms like a chair. I think of these like a chair, so that would be fake. Or a melon behind the stack like this, right? That would be fake as well. So that's basically it for the melon stack. Going behind here, we have a bookshelf stack, right? As for the bookshelf stack, right? If you see a bookshelf in this hole, it's fake, right? Or if you see a bookshelf behind the stack, like right here, right? That would be fake as well. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That would be that one. Okay, all good. So that's basically it for the bookshelf stack. You can also sometimes see flower pots hiding in these specific spots. So you'll even sometimes see that, and so it makes it a little bit more difficult to see them. So you should be familiar with that as well. Right, going over here, we have some furnaces and some anvils, right? Starting with the furnaces, basically, right, as for the furnaces, like if you see like, I notice how there's basically a 3-block staircase, but if you see a 2-block staircase of furnaces right next to it, like for instance right here, then that would be fake. Also, if you see like 2 furnaces in a row like this, that would be fake. So something like that. Okay. There's this other spot over near the furnaces, which, you know, near the furnaces, there's this other spot that you gotta be familiar with. And it's the fact that you might see a flower pot in this hole right here, in between the leaves. So you should be familiar with that as well. And so that's basically it over here. Going over to these anvils, you don't have to worry about these anvils, because as you can see, you can't even go next to them, right? You don't have to worry about these, because you can't even possibly get up there, right? Like even if I go up here, I can't really get there, can I? Right? You'll never see that happen. You only have to worry about these 3 anvils, right? These 2 and this one. So basically, if you see 3 anvils in a row like this, it's fake, right? Or if you see an anvil right next to this one, it's fake. Basically, sort of like this, that would be fake. That's basically it for the anvils, right? So that's basically it for this corner right here, right? Heading over here, we have. We'll go over this stuff right now. For the anvils, basically have 5 anvils sticking out like this, so if you see like an anvil next to it like that would be fake. Next to the bookshelves. Basically, you have two groups of three, right? You have a group of 3 bookshelves here and a group of 3 bookshelves here. And they have the same exact structure, so it's really easy to memorize, right? Memorize. So if you see a square of bookshelves, right? A square of bookshelves, it's fake. Also, if you see, like, you know, a bookshelf forming this common structure, right? That shouldn't be there, so this would be a fake bookshelf. So it's really easy to determine if there's a fake bookshelf here or not, so pretty easy. Okay, so we've talked about this. Next, let's head over here, right, to these flower pots and cakes. Now, really, it's really easy, actually, because it turns out all you gotta memorize for the cakes is you just have to memorize that there's a total of 3 cakes here. So if you see 4 cakes, for instance, right, usually you're gonna see either a cake right here or a cake right here, then that would be fake. Right? As for the flower pots, it's also really easy. Because really, the only flower pots that are alone, right, basically have 1, 2, 3 flower pots that are alone, right? 3 flower pots that aren't directly next to any other blocks, right? 3 flower pots. Right, it's 3 just like how there's 3 cakes, so it makes it really easy to memorize them, right? We love memorizing things, right? And the rest of the flower pots, right, we just have a group of 4, and then this flower pot's in between the cakes. So it's really easy to just memorize, right? So basically, for instance, if you see 5 flower pots all grouped together like that, then it would be fake. And typically, you'd either see those same spots for the cakes, but as flower pots. So either one of those 2 spots would be fake as well. And so that's basically it for the flower pots and cakes, right? It's really easy if you just think of it that way. Heading over here, we have these melons, right? Now, really, we've made it to the back of the center map. So basically, when we were over here, this was the front, right? We had that melon stack. But now we basically headed to the back, right? We have another melon stack, right? And this melon stack is actually really important to memorize because, well, it's right near the hider spawn, which is literally right here. And so it's important that you memorize this. How do you memorize it? It turns out it's actually really easy. I like saying that because I've said every single stack is really easy so far. So it's actually really easy. I like saying that. Because this melon stack is actually almost symmetrical. Right? It turns out if you put a melon right here, then the melon stack becomes symmetrical diagonally. As you can see, it's symmetrical diagonally if there's a melon right here. This is what makes it really easy to memorize, right? But you can see 2 melons on the bottom layer, 3 melons on the layer that I'm on, right? 2 on the layer above me, and then 1 on the top. So it makes it really easy to just memorize. But really, all you're looking for is if you see it squared off or if it's cubed off. So in this case, it would be squared off. In this case, it would be cubed off. Right? In this case, it would be squared off. In this case, it would be cubed off. In this case, it would be squared off. In this case, it would be squared off. We also shouldn't see a melon go up really high. So it makes it really easy to identify a fake hider here, right? Just basically, if there's a melon on top of the stack, either it forces the stack to be symmetrical, so this would be fake, right? And any other spot that they go, it's either squared off or cubed off. Unless, you know, again, a melon goes up way too high. Sometimes you see a melon go in this hole, which is a little difficult to see, but they don't become solid there, so it's still pretty easy. Right, the only other thing about this melon stack is that you have a melon on the left side of it. So basically, if you see like 2 melons on top of it like that, it's fake. Or if you see 2 melons in a row like this, then that would be fake. So you just sort of have to memorize that for fun, right? Let's go! We love memorizing things for fun, right? That's why we're doing this, to memorize these hiding spots, right? Memorize them for fun, right? As for these hay bales, again, it's also really important that you know the stuff over here, because again, it's really close to the hider spawn. As for these hay bales, it's a very common structure that you see in blocks, so you just have to memorize it, right? Just memorize it, right? Any deviation from it, like for instance, if it's squared off like this, it's squared off like this, or if it's squared off like this, it's fake. Also, if you see 3 hay bales surrounding the central hay bale, then that would be fake as well. As for these cauldrons, it's also pretty easy because basically you can sort of think of it as filling the missing piece. This would be the missing piece because, well, now both of those pieces match together, both strips of cauldrons, right? So if you ever see 2 rows of 4 in a row, then this would be a fake cauldron. You also should never see 5 in a row, like for instance like this. This would be fake as well. That's basically it for the cauldrons, right? As for the flower pots, basically it looks hard, but it's actually easier once you see it in person, right? Once you just sort of know it, right? I like that. Basically, the way I like to think about it is I like to basically first notice that we have the number 7 right here, just reversed. And we also have the number 7 right here. So that part makes it really easy to memorize, right? The number 7. Right, but also, you should be looking for specific spots, right? For instance, notice there's 5 flower pots in a row, like that never happens, so that makes this a fake one. In this particular case, you have a rectangle of 6 flower pots, right? That never happens, right? As you can see, we have, if there's a flower pot here, this forms a bow tie, right? That never happens, so you should never see a bow tie. And also, you should never see the number 7 affected. In addition, if there's a flower pot here, that's 6 flower pots in a row, which again, never happens. It's really easy if you just memorize certain features about the structures. Going over here, again, we have the number 7 with the flower pots right here. So the number 7, right? And really, we have another flower pot with it. Basically, if you see a flower pot right here, which you'll sometimes see, then this would be fake. So just memorize this one, right? I like memorizing things. Right? Again, if you see a flower pot right here, you see a rectangle of 6 flower pots, and that would be fake because that never happens. Okay. If you see a flower pot right here, that's 5 flower pots in a row, right? Way too many flower pots in a row. You should never see 5 flower pots in a row, right? And also, if you see a flower pot go right here, that's 7 flower pots in a row, right? That's way too many flower pots in a row, so that's how you know that's fake. So it makes it really easy. You just think of those, those different patterns that you can see. Right? As for the TNT stack, it's also really easy because all you gotta do is just memorize a few things. Basically, if you see like a TNT in this hole, it's fake. That's probably the most common one. So just memorize this. Right? If you see a TNT on the left side of the stack, usually it will go right here. That would be fake. Or if you see a TNT on the right side of the stack, usually they will go right here in this slot. So just memorize that for fun. Right? Also, we have, notice a cube of TNT here. That is actually a real cube of TNT. You should not see a cube of TNT on the right side, though. So if you see a cube of TNT like this, then this would be fake. I guess one other spot is if you see 3 TNTs in a row, or if there's a TNT right here. That's basically it. So now that we've talked about the TNT stack, if we keep going around clockwise, we reach the melon pile that we were just at. Right? What is the first pile we went over, I meant to say. Right? We went over this, that was the first pile we went over. We've gone over all the block piles on the outline of the center of the map. All we gotta go over now is the center. Like basically, if you notice underneath here, right, this is basically sort of the underneath area, that's what I call it. There should be no flower pots in the underneath area, but many times you'll find flower pots in here. So just memorize that. There should be none in here, right? Memorize that for fun. Notice on this wall right here, there should be nothing in this slot. So if you see like an animal in the slot, it's fake. Also, like if you see a furnace with all these furnaces, right? And another thing you might see is like 2 animals in a row right here. If you see 2 animals in a row right here, then it's fake. And sometimes you'll see an anvil in this slot right here. That would be fake as well. Just memorize that, right? We love memorizing things. That's basically it. So now, last thing we gotta go over is this top area right here. Usually you don't find hiders up here, but if you do, let's talk about this outline area. Basically, like 5 in a row is fake, right? 4 in a row is fake. Basically, if you ever see 4 or 5 animals in a row, that's usually means like it's gonna be fake, right? Pretty easy, just memorize that, right? For these hay bales and flower pots, right? Notice when you look at it this way, there's a total of 4 flower pots, right? As there should be. There should not be any more than this, right? Usually you aren't gonna see hiders hiding in front of it, just something to memorize for fun, I like saying. The typical spot to see a hider hide at is actually right here. So you just sort of have to memorize this one for fun. Right, and also, okay, or hay bale right here. That's basically it for this center area. And that basically covers everything in the center of the map that is not building. So we basically covered everything. Oh, I guess another thing I should mention is that you'll sometimes find animals here, so you should just hit animals as you pass by them. Oh, and another thing I should mention is that you sometimes find hiders hiding on top of the stone structure right there, right? No idea what it is. I think it's just a line of stone. I don't know what it is, but basically, hiders sometimes hide on top of there, so you can just launch your bow to get rid of them off that stone structure. So they basically, usually you'll hit them each time, so pretty easy. That's basically it for the center of the map.